What's up, everyone? Welcome to SBR Roundtable, hitting on MLB, NBA playoffs, and the NHL playoffs, plus a little soccer action from Big Man on Campus. So we're here every Wednesday, 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. Make sure to check us out. We got a great show for you today. To introduce the panel, we'll start off with Big Man on Campus. You can find him at Jeff Nadeau on Twitter. Big Man, how you doing today?
Doing great. How are you, Drew?
Dude, I'm doing good. We got a good MLB card. We got the playoffs and ice hockey. Interested to hear Ian Cameron's comments on that. Ian, how you doing in Canada? You can find Ian on Twitter at Bobano.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Always on Twitter at Bobano, sportsmemo.com as well. NHL playoffs have been fantastic. We had 4 overtime games on Monday night. It was incredible. It's been an unbelievable action in the postseason so far. Baseball on a daily basis, gearing up for CFL in 2 months. Still lots to keep me busy for sure.
Good stuff, Ian. Excited to hear your ice hockey opinions in the playoffs, man. And last but certainly not least, Donnie Rightside. Great follow on Twitter, actually, at RightSideVP. Donnie, how you doing today, man?
Hey, doing good today. Baseball's been treating me very well through the month of April. We'll see if we can match up some more dogs here to carry out the month. But I have to say one thing with Ian. Jeff will back me up on this. Thank goodness Ian is on with us today because we get berated on our other shows for not going over hockey. And the only thing we have left to deflect is just wait till Ian gets on. He'll take care of it. Thank you, Ian, for being on with us today. We really appreciate it.
I'm the puckhead. What can I say?
How's that show going, man, with Andrew McManus?
Oh, it's going good. He's a good guy. He's from the Maritime provinces. He's doing a good job. New guy on the SBR scene. Knows his hockey. Very good to talk to, and he's done a great job with me on the hockey show. Every Monday, tune in. We break down the Stanley Cup playoffs once a week, and it's been a lot of fun.
What time do you guys do that at on Monday?
12:30 Eastern every Monday.
Okay, good stuff. Make sure to check that out. And we'll start off with a little baseball today, boys. What about some teams we're looking to fade, some teams we're looking to ride? Any surprises so far? Anything catch your eye, things you're looking to stay away from, things we're looking to bet on?
I'll start.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to start with right back in my backyard again with this Blue Jays team. I mean, I know Marcus Stroman last night, for instance, was on the mound for them, but how on earth were they laying that kind of price against anyone? It's getting to the point now, 2-11 on the season. The Jays can't be laying minus 160 against a Pee Wee baseball team. It's getting really that bad with them. The rotation is a mess. Hap on the DL now. There's concerns now with Estrada. There's concerns with Sanchez, blister issue with him. It's just a complete mess. The bullpen is a disaster. They're still not hitting the baseball. Until you see any sign of a turnaround, more than just winning one game and then losing the next one, which is exactly what happened to the Jays over the weekend. You can't take this team right now. There's a lot of wheels falling off this train, and I don't know if they're going to be put back on anytime soon.
Did you look at the game today, Ian? What about against Boston? You like anything? I mean, Porcello got rocked last time out, but like you said, I mean, the Jays against righties have been awful. You like anything today?
Yeah, I lean Boston. I don't like Porcello as much away from Fenway Park as I do at Fenway. Jays have had some success against him in the past. Liriano's a guy I just don't know what I'm going to get from Liriano game in and game out. I mean, I thought he had a great spring, but then he had that brutal first start against Tampa, but was better last time out against Baltimore. So what Liriano do we get? I have no clue whatsoever. But even at the current number, even price, you're not getting that dog money anymore with Boston. But that's the only side I can look at with this the Red Sox here tonight in this game. I want no part of Toronto, none.
Yeah, it looks like the market is kind of back Boston a little bit, getting bet up. And Liriano, he has been shaky. You're right. I mean, last year he finished. I was looking at his game logs. He was killing it his last 4 or 5. I'm not much into spring, but so far this year, I mean, he got pounded game 1, like you said, and then he came back with a good start. So it's shaky on how he's going to do, especially against, the Boston lineup without Ortiz, but they're still a strong lineup. So it should be an interesting one there in Toronto. What about you, Donnie? You got anything?
Yeah, looking at that Boston-Toronto game, just to back that up, me and Jeff talk about it quite a bit, and I know most of the people, I watch the shows around SBR, it's really hard to back Toronto, especially as a favorite, anything over 120, 130, 140. You figured last night, if that was the one night that Toronto was going to get right with their starting staff and, get things back in shape, last night was going to be the night. The one thing I do like about today's game, if you're just looking at betting action there, it's a very light line, opened up at -104 if you're taking a look at SBRodds.com. It's a slight favorite right now to Boston, -112, somewhere in that range, -110 in that 5-9s area. This might be one of those days that you look at as actually you're getting a decent price on Toronto. Obviously, looking at them 2-11 to start the baseball season, you sort of would like them to wake up, but you're finally seeing the market correct itself on Toronto to where they accurately should be, and you might be actually getting a little bit of value here on Toronto today.
They are the home team. I mean, in Rogers Center. Hey, Donnie, that brings up a good question. I know you're into watching line moves and kind of fading the public. Mm-hmm. Do you bring in on SBR odds? You can see it. Everybody needs to check this out because they have such a line of sports books to look at. Do you ever take into account sharper books like Pinnacle, Bookmaker, that Chris, versus Bovada? Meaning like more shaped more towards the public better, and Bovada hanging a -118 right now against Pinnacle -109. Do you ever factor that in?
Yeah, everybody usually knows what's the sharper books, which I'm glad you pointed that up there, Drew. The sports books that I really like to look at are Pinnacle and Chris, because I tend to think that they're a little bit more on edge and sharper. And everybody out there who's watched lines, give it like 6 months, you'll see the differences there. Everybody knows, like, even if you're betting an NFL Sunday, the Eagles are -7. Bovada is probably going to have the Eagles at -7.5, and a sharper book like maybe Chris or Pinnacle is going to hang like a 6.5 out there to be more leading edge. But I certainly watch those books more than the other ones. I know 5-9 is probably the most popular book out there, obviously being an offshore account, very easy accessibility. They do have good prices there with 10-cent lines, but yes, I do pay much more attention there, especially with the opening lines of Chris and Pinnacle, and see where those books move it as opposed to the other ones. Good question there, Drew.
Yeah, and just to update everybody, when we say sharper books, because that gets thrown out a lot, it's more talking towards how much money they will take on a bet. Bookmaker, Chris, Pinnacle will take large amounts of money. So smart money, big money tends to bet at those books, where Bovada, I actually don't have a Bovada account anymore, but I believe what's their max, 500. So the big bettors are not able to bet there. Therefore, they cater to more of an everyday Joe and will kind of shade the line, like Donnie said, towards the public, usually favorite team. Mm-hmm. But hey, Jeff, big man on campus, what about you? What's surprising you so far in the baseball season?
I'm going to look to back the Atlanta Braves a little bit more than I would last year. I mean, you look particularly at home. They've opened up the season winning 5 or 6, right now in that ballpark. They've really looked particularly good. And the thing that I like about Atlanta this year that I'm not liking from years past, they actually have a couple arms in that pitching rotation now. You have Teheran, who's been very constant. You have Jamie Garcia, who's been a pretty good big leaguer. I know Dickey, he can speak for himself. He can be embarrassing at times, but I think it's only going to get better for him due to the fact that the knuckleball is a little bit more effective in the summer months. You also look at this lineup. I mean, I mentioned the other night when they beat it was the last game against, I forget who it was, whoever they played the other night when Freeman hit that home run. That's a game they lose a year or two ago. They're winning games like that now. They're going to be a pesky team on the run line because a lot of the time they're going to be getting 1.5 runs at a pretty nice price. You look at last night against a team like the Washington Nationals, they're getting a nice number. Max Scherzer might go 7 innings, but that bullpen's going to make it interesting. They always do. So a team like the Atlanta Braves are going to be pesky night after night. And in this division, look, I mean, the Nationals are pretty good, but everyone else is kind of, average. So I think the Atlanta Braves are going to win a lot more games like the Arizona Diamondbacks. I will piggyback off of what Ian Cameron said about Toronto. Listen, I don't care who the public's on. I don't care if the Sharps are on the Blue Jays. The Toronto Blue Jays are not worth a bet whatsoever right now. I don't care if God himself is pitching for them. They should not be back. They're a team right now who is near the bottom in pitching, second to the bottom in hitting. They're just a mess right now. They can't get out of their own way, and they're not the same team they were. They're going to have a tough year in the AL East for sure.
I agree with you. What do you think that is? Donaldson being out? You think it's the loss of Encarnacion, just a mixture of everything?
Yeah, I think it's Encarnacion moving on, Donaldson, in and out of the lineup with injury. Bautista is a guy that, listen, to be honest, has I'm not a huge fan of him as a he's not a hit for average kind of guy seemingly anymore. Seemingly hits a ton of home runs. You look at in the rest of that group. I mean, what do you really have? Kenji Morales, who's about 40 years old. Salta Lamakia. I mean, come on. Smoke, Devin Travis. They're all guys with potential, but it's hit or miss on when they're going to be good or not. So you're not scared by that lineup anymore. They don't have that 4 or 5 guys that are going to strike fear in your eyes. They don't have it. They will not address pitching for whatever reason, and their GM is a moron. I don't know how else to say that. Apostolopoulos is lost. So yeah, there's a lot of things.
Yeah, and you know what? They're owned by either a media or communications company. I believe it's Rogers, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because when they had that, they got all those guys like in the R.A. Dickey deal and everything. They kind of dismantled their minor league system. So as far as bringing people up, they're going to need to rebuild that. So it's almost like maybe well before the trade deadline, they might look to trade ship. Outside of Stroman, a lot of these guys might be shipped because they got to build up their minor league program for the future.
And the sad thing about that fan base is they have to kind of unload at this point, and they really never won anything. I mean, they had opportunities. I mean, last year, the year before, they had opportunities. They were there. They just, for whatever reason, will not address free agency and bringing people in for long periods of time that will help them year after year. They don't do it.
Yeah. And hey, on your Braves intro there, I like the Braves as well. I mean, in that ballpark, I think that has something to do in the pitchers faulty as well. Tehran going, he's been money as well. So I like that, big man. I like your breakdown a lot on both of those teams.
Yeah. Also, just to chime in on the Braves factor there, I always like to look at an April baseball, Drew and Jeff. Some of these teams don't yet know what they are. Like everybody expected the Braves to be bad, the Phillies to be bad, the Reds to be bad. But until your record really shows you're bad, you're still fighting every day. Every day you wake up, get to the ballpark. Boy, we might, we can hang around 500. Once these teams set in where, a month and a half goes by, 2 months go by, when they see the record, they see the writing on the wall. But right now, everybody's still fresh. And again, that new ballpark seems to be giving them life. Didn't know how it would turn around because, again, they haven't played in this ballpark the same as the visitors haven't played, but it looks like Atlanta is getting a bump and some excitement from that home ballpark. So they're definitely a live dog much throughout the month of April here.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like a great ballpark. And, compared to Turner Field, man, some of those hot summer muggy days in Atlanta, I know from experience, that place wouldn't have many people at all. It would say 20,000 people were there, but I'd be surprised if there was 7,000 or 8,000. So it got to be one of those ballparks that wasn't very fun to go to. It wasn't, there in the south of the city, and all the Braves season ticket holders live in the north part of the city. So that definitely, I think, translates to wins and losses on the field. But we got some questions here in the box. What do we think about the under in the Minnesota-Cleveland game, or Pirates Cards tonight towards the under? Anybody got anything on those two games, or we can get right into the Cards? Start off with Pitt St. Louis at the top here.
Yeah, sure. Let's get a rundown. We'll probably hit most of them.
If I can make 2 points on a pitcher that I'm looking to continue to back and a fade that I'm looking to get, kind of bet against at this point, I think you may be surprised at where I'm going at fading. The pitcher I'm going to keep backing, guys, and I'm sure many will agree, Paxton. I mean, I don't know how you can't continue to back James Paxton at this point. He's the best player on that staff as far as pitching. You look at what he's done, 21 innings, hasn't given up a run, whip under 0.6. A 0.57 whip is unbelievable. 22 strikeouts, and what makes it more unbelievable is how many people are swinging and missing at his pitches. I mean, the league average is 10.4%. He has a rate of over 15%. His fastball is absolutely dominating. You look at some of the games already this year, I mean, he's embarrassing people. He's embarrassing the Texas Rangers. He's embarrassing good lineups. James Paxton is lightning. He is a guy for them that I think is going to win a lot of games. It's just, can they give him a little bit of support? He's going to give them great outings night after night. He is a dominating pitcher right now early on. A fade, I'm going to go Stephen Wright. Stephen Wright has been terrible in all intents and purposes. I mean, giving up a ton of runs, opponents earning 400 off of him to start the year. And the problem with these knuckleball pitchers, which many will agree, they're really not going to get any different. It's not going to make him any different. They just have that pitch. That's really all they have. His whip is over 2. He's in a park where it's going to be difficult to consistently pitch well. Obviously, Fenway is a hitter park. This guy's a mess, a total mess right now. And the Boston Red Sox have some problems. David Price out. Rick Porcello has been terrible to begin the year. What will Drew Pomerantz do long term? They have some issues in the pitching staff right now. And Porcello and Wright lead the pack in that department.
Yeah, when you say Pomerantz, it seems that he's come out with a little extra velocity, but his fit in Fenway, I'm not sure I'm there either. And then with Stephen Wright, I actually faded him last time out. I think they were playing the Rays, and I took the loss, but he did not pitch well, so I'm not so sure that was the wrong side. And as far as James Paxton, I saw a special on him. He's been banged up with injuries, but you're right, Jeff. When he is on, and he's been working. He's come into this year with the mindset of staying healthy. He wants to get 200 innings. So, as far as fantasy players out there, he might be a good guy to trade for, or, everyday betting as well. It's just, the market's going to start to pound on this. We're going to start seeing minus 150 pluses when he's on the hill because, he is that good, like you point out.
Yeah, exactly. And Stephen Wright, my point there is just, I think he kind of overachieved last year. He doesn't have – it's not like he can really fix what he's doing. He's just – that's what he has. It is what it is. And look, I'm not a guy that – I don't like knuckleballers. It's just not – I don't think they're that effective really. And at some point, people figure that out. So I think Wright's going to continue to struggle after a overachieving year last year.
Okay. Well, Donnie, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I got a couple that I would like to look at, pitchers to ride and also pitchers to fade. Early in the season, Jeff's going to like this one as well. Ride Cy Young, otherwise known as Andrew Triggs.
Yeah, he mentioned this on
Athletics.
Show.
This guy is unbelievable since about midway last year. Hasn't given up an earned run yet. Consistently plays that dog roll well. Also, another pitcher I'm looking to ride is a little bit higher elevation type guy. It's Chris Archer of the Tampa Bay Rays. That Rays lineup behind him right now is very underrated. You see it on the night-to-night basis. They can hit the ball, and especially at home, Archer is a very, very good pitcher. So if you're getting something maybe 150 or less, which a lot of people are still going to give the Rays, not that public benefit yet, look for him at home. Anything under 150 is usually a good one. Pitchers to fade here. I'm going to start with my hometown Philadelphia Phillies. Hellickson coming out of the gate looking very good. I think as the summer goes along, those numbers are going to change. So eventually, those numbers will catch up to Hellickson. He'll be a good fade as the summer goes on. Also, Mike Leake. I mean, how much more can we do for the St. Louis Cardinals here? As the summer goes on as well with him, look from the fade. He's not a pitcher. I mean, maybe 10 years ago with the Cincinnati Reds, he was something, but I'm going to fade him as the season goes on. And if you notice, each and every week we ask this, these pitchers do change. Yes, it is early, but at this moment, those are the pitchers that I'm looking at with some value and some without some value.
Mike Leake, the old Arizona State Sun Devil. I mean, when he came in, he was killing it. And then
and he even had a bat to swing around, too. I mean, he was doing it all back then.
Yeah, man. But, hey, Ian Cameron, welcome back. Glad we got you. Hey, me and Jeff were talking about knuckleballers. Know you're there right around Toronto. Probably know R.A. Dickey good. Do you have anything to say on – do they normally get better as the season goes on? Are they better in warm weather with humidity in domes? Anything like that to add to knuckleballers betting on them or fading them?
Well, R.A. Dickey to me was unpredictable. I'll be honest. I couldn't get a read on him, whether he was pitching outdoors, whether he was pitching indoors. I think even if he was pitching winter or summer, I couldn't tell a difference and be able to prognosticate what he was going to give you on a daily basis. I mean, he was a tough pitcher for me to handicap. Usually last year, an R.A. Dickey start, all I did was say pass and move on to the next game. I mean, he was a very, very tough pitcher to handicap, even so far with Atlanta this year. He had one game where he got hit around pretty good, and then the last game, which I believe was against San Diego for him, he was pretty serviceable in that game, managed to keep his team in the game, managed to neutralize the Padres well enough. So on a given day, it's almost like, is Dickey going to get up on the right side of the bed? If he does, he's going to pitch well. If he doesn't, he's going to suck. That's basically what it's come down to with R.A. Dickey. He's very, very tough for me over the years to get a read on that guy, just as one example. And Stephen Wright, you look at him. He's really been hit hard this season early on. A little bit better last time out against the Tampa Bay Rays, but it's a guy that right away I was looking at, is he going to be able to duplicate what he did last season now, second time around now, second season, full season? as a starter here in Boston may look like a guy maybe to fade a little bit moving forward. Stephen Wright of Boston, maybe a guy that can't duplicate the great season of last year.
Hey, Drew.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about Dickey like during the day, during night, because obviously during the day, obviously a little bit better weather conditions, a little bit warmer, sunny, clearly. 279 during the day, at night 244. Opponent batting average. His ERA was 6 during the day. At night games last year, 3.39. So, and that was on the Toronto Blue Jays. So, I mean, the knuckleballer is knuckleball's known where, during the day, it's usually supposed to be pretty good. So kind of weird stats for him. It's the warm weather should have helped him, not hurt him. The stats are definitely weird as far as him. But yeah, it's like Ian said, he's really just an inconsistent guy, a 4-starter. That's what R.A. Dickey is.
Yeah, Jeff, and the beauty is if you have a pitcher that you don't have a good read on, you don't bet the game involving that pitcher.
Yeah.
You've got that choice in front of you, and that's pretty much what I did with Dickey all last season.
I would prefer, though, most of the time to fade knuckleballers. 9 times out of 10, for me, I've always had pretty good success doing it, unless you have a team that's just a mess at the plate. But everybody has their ways,
Yeah, it looks like we're all kind of in agreement. I mean, I know I'm definitely in the negative betting knuckleballers and 0-1 betting fading Stephen Wright this year. So I think we're all in agreement. I'm staying away from him anyway. And it looks like Donnie is in the question box as well. We got a bunch of questions to get to, and feel free, guys, to write in the question box on YouTube or hit us up on Twitter. But it looks like guys are chomping at the bit for Pittsburgh St. Louis. Anybody got anything in this game? It looks like it's the top of the rotation.
I don't have anything on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much an evenly capped game. I mean, if you're going to take, a numbers perspective, which, I always like to look at, Pinnacle opens up at a -113 and is bet up to -125. Both the public and the money both coming in on St. Louis. So if you're just taking out, capping and looking at, Cole versus Waka here, it looks like a slight lean towards the St. Louis Cardinals, but I don't have much on this game. It's one of those where I would just, look and maybe flip a coin on that one. Even with the total there, Drew, at 8, I don't really have too much on that. Still waiting for the bats to wake up on both of those teams.
Yeah, I think this is a good point to say. Just because the game's first and it's on at 1 o'clock doesn't mean you have to bet on it. You see time and time again, a lot of people betting on games with no value whatsoever. I mean, this is a true coin flip, no matter how you say it. The Pittsburgh Pirates are struggling. The St. Louis Cardinals are struggling. You have 2 pitchers that are normally pretty good. Just because the game's on, you don't have to bet it. That's the one thing where we as a group have to look at and say, let's move on here. Let's go do something else where I won't bet on this game. That's the one problem that novice bettors have. They're betting on games that really have no statistical edge in, just to bet on it. And that's how I think you separate people that do this long-term and people that just do it as a hobby. I think that's one thing we have to point out here.
Yep.
You don't have to bet it.
Yeah, great point, Jeff. You don't have to bet every game, and you don't even have to have a bet a game, but especially on a day like today with 4-day games. So if you're an action junkie, just pick one of them, but towards Jeff's point, you do not have to bet any games. But
and I will say this, and I'm going to say something about Pittsburgh, actually. And I'm a little worried about them, maybe a bet against team in the short term. They've already lost here in St. Louis in this series earlier on, coming off that sweep against the Cubs. This Starling Marte suspension, I think, has rocked that clubhouse a little bit. It's something that probably is just going to throw them off kilter a little bit. We're already starting to see signs of that. I think I'd be a little bit concerned for Pittsburgh in the short term here. And Garrett Cole's been hit hard at times this year. He's given up some extra base hits. He's given up some home runs. I've got some minor concerns about Garrett Cole. So if I'm giving up a lean of any kind in this game, slight lean St. Louis and lay the short price, but just a slight lean.
They are at home, but they have struggled against righties. 627 team OPS versus righties, something that I look into, the handedness of the pitcher going against that. And Cole, he has faced the Red Sox and Cubs lineup, 2 strong lineups, you would think, even though they've somewhat struggled this year. He also did face Atlanta, so he has been knocked around. Good point, Ian.
That's a good question, Drew, on the chat about from Adam Lopez. How do you play a team off a big streak like the Yankees? That's a great question. I'm going to tell you right now, and I talked about it with Donnie last night on the show. Joe Girardi continues to overmanage this team. I mean, you have Chase Headley, who we're 2 weeks into the season. He's giving people day offs after Chase Headley, who is not a guy you really mess with. I mean, he's you ride the hot hand. I mean, he's hitting the baseball. Why are we taking him out of the lineup? This is early in the season. I think that's going to mess with them a little bit. He was their table setter. He was the guy that was bringing people in. They were playing well. Why does Joe Girardi have to screw around with the lineup and give people days off? Give Greg Bird a day off, for God's sakes. Greg Bird's hitting 120. Give him a day off. He needs it, not Chase Headley, and that's going to ruin what you had there. Joe Girardi continuing to overmanage. That's been a problem with him as this Yankee manager.
Yeah, the bird's not the word there. I will say this about Girardi. That's a great point. He drives me nuts. He goes to the dugout all the time with that little book that he brings out. Could you just put the book down, please? Could you think outside the box? Could you use your head, use your brain a little bit a few times? How about making up a decision on the fly, coming up with something right away on the top of your head, maybe something that differs from just the conventional wisdom in that little Bible you always take out from the dugout, and you go by that every friggin' game. He drives me absolutely insane. He micromanages everything. He's to every little nth degree. He can't let the game breathe. He can't let the game just basically flow and basically just make a decision on your own without going to that stupid dopey book there, please.
Yeah, he's
Let's use some sense here.
Time after time, brutal. And he has these love affairs with players where he just won't. Like Aaron Hicks, he's in love with. He just continues to put Aaron Hicks at the number 2 in the lineup. Brett Gardner struggled. I got to tell you, I think the top of this lineup has some issues, and they will have issues over the year. But, yeah, I mean, let's take out Chase Headley. For what exactly? I mean, and you take him out and you lose. You have no chance in the game. Bad decision. But, yes, to answer his question, I kind of jump off for a little bit, to be honest. I know many will probably agree. Like when the Anaheim Ducks finally lose to the Calgary Flames at home, are you going to jump on Anaheim the next game? I mean, you kind of the luster's kind of lost itself. It's like that hot girl that you get after months of trying to get her. You finally get her. You have sex with her, and it's like, you know what? It really wasn't that cool. I'll move on, It was
that usually doesn't happen after one time, though. That's more like 10 or 20 times.
But my point is, like,
starts to get stale.
Sometimes it's stale, and it's like it's time to move on. I gotta kind of move on to the next. So, yeah, I would say to him, as far as that streak, it's game to game, but it does kind of throw off the mojo with losing the game, and Headley obviously having a day off.
Yeah, now on this game too, Guan White in with the question, why is Tanaka minus 200? He's actually bet up to almost 230 at some shops. And I noticed one thing with Tanaka. He got knocked around game 1, and then it's slipping my name. The backup catcher took over his last time out, and he actually pitched well. So I think it might have something to do, the language barrier there and feeling comfortable. We've seen it time and time again. You can see the splits with a lot of these pitchers on Baseball Reference and what catcher they're going with, and that's something with Tanaka to look at going forward. So it looks like the market's onto something. That might be one thing. I didn't spend too much time because I don't know much about the Chicago White Sox pitcher, but that might be one thing, Guan, on that one. Anybody else got anything on?
And he also, I think you make a really good point about Hige Oshaka, the backup catcher. Hige Oshaka is third-generation Japanese, and he's learned Japanese to communicate better with Tanaka. So I think that's a fantastic kind of addition that the kid worked hard, and he's a young kid. He's come up, and look, Tanaka has had some issues. He's fixing some mechanical things, but if he can connect with someone on the level of the heritage, I think that's huge for him going forward to kind of get that catcher that he works well with. He worked pretty well with Brian McCann, but they kind of had to move on. And that's one thing, Drew, that I'm glad you brought up. You have to look when a team moves on from their catcher. I've mentioned with R.A. Dickey down in Atlanta, Kurt Suzuki, first game, 3 pass balls for catching R.A. Dickey. Some things you have to take into account that many don't, i.e. Brian McCann leaving the Yankees. How's that going to affect the other pitchers? The pitchers, how's that going to affect them?
Yeah, that's great. That's great stuff there. I mean, for this roundtable, I mean, just coming up to something like that, the feeling comfortableness and the language barrier being breached there, I think that's great betting advice going forward. And that's probably one of the reasons they are minus 230 now.
And you got to look at this kid. I mean, what an interesting kid, Hige Oshaka. He learned Japanese to better communicate with Tanaka. He's also learning Spanish to communicate better with the Latin players. So really taking a dedicated role. And that's, kind of a kid that, rooting for the Yankees, I look for a kid like him and say, that's a good kid I want on my team. He's willing to put the time in. He earned his college degree. He's doing his thing the right way. And I think for Tanaka, that's only going to help him long term.
Well, Ian, we got some people saying you're very entertaining, so feel free to flow with the singing or whatever, man. We
No
really
singing.
encourage that.
We're sticking to business today. Kurt Suzuki, that's funny. I'm sure Minnesota doesn't miss him. Jason Castro, you talking about a huge catcher upgrade. Boy, Jason Castro's that for Minnesota. But great point, Drew, about the pitcher-catcher relationship. And I'm going to go back to Liriano for a second. He was terrible in that first game for the Jays, and Saltalamacchia was catching him. He was great in his second start, or at least much better, back to Russell Martin as his catcher. And if you remember back in the Pittsburgh Pirate days, Liriano and Martin, they were working together in Pittsburgh, and that is the very time of Liriano's career where he had his most success, his greatest success in Pittsburgh with Russell Martin catching him. So watch out for that dynamic, Liriano and Martin, because for some reason, the way I see it, all throughout Liriano's career stinks with everyone else catching him. It's fantastic with Martin catching him. Go figure, but the Russell Martin-Liriano dynamics worked for them.
All right, guys, we're on a little bit of a time crunch here. We got to keep this under an hour, I am told. But Donnie, you've been very patient, man. I feel like you got something big on the MLB card. What is it? Miami versus the Mariners, which is a series I'm 0-2. I'm staying away from today. Anything in the day games today?
Yeah, if you're taking a look at the day game action here, one of those that does peak up there is the Miami and Seattle situation, Volquez versus Hernandez. We all know that the public loves to back Hernandez. If you're looking at opening tickets here, 62% have been backing Felix Hernandez. Pinnacle opens that up at -150. Has downshifted a little bit, but not enough for what I would say is like one of those public fades that you would look for. What you want to have is a nice money line wager going the opposite direction, a little bit of money coming back the other way, but also that line peeling back in reverse is always a red flag, which brings me to my next one. Game starting at 3:35, rotation 963, 964, Texas, Oakland, Perez versus Hahn. It's the exact situation that you like. If you want case in point, just reverse back to last night. Tampa Bay and Detroit, the world on Tampa Bay. Fulmer's dominant. Andresi's terrible. Everybody's betting Detroit. Line peeling back in reverse. It ends at -115 with Tampa Bay. They walk and cruise to an easy win. Does it work every time out there? No, it certainly doesn't. But there's certain things in April that are indicators, and this is one. 26% of the bets are coming in on tickets alone for Oakland. 43% of the money. So you have the nice even disparagement, a little amount of money coming in, or excuse me, a little amount of tickets coming in, but actually more money backing those. Line opens up at Pinnacle -114. Pinnacle is currently sitting at -104, currently sitting at -114. It has the exact trifecta that you like. I'll make this my red light special for the afternoon. Take the Oakland A's today over the Texas Rangers.
Boom. I love it. There we go. And we'll also come back with everybody with best bets at the end on the outro as well. But
are we wrapping up
Ian,
baseball?
go ahead.
Are we wrapping up baseball now right with this part? Because there's one thing I got to get in here. Who with a clue is going to lay -250 with Clayton Kershaw tonight with the Dodgers facing yet another lefty?
Buck's going to do it.
Yet another lefty they're facing tonight in Tyler Anderson. And this is unbelievable with this Dodgers team against lefties. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then I read Dave Roberts, a quote. His explanation, his solution to the problem, I'm not worried about our team against lefties. This was a quote. He said, it's a numbers thing. The numbers are going to turn in our favor at some point. We just have to stay patient. What numbers thing? What numbers thing? Did the numbers turn for you last August when you sucked every bit as much against Southpaws as you do now? Did the numbers turn then? No, they did not. Did they turn last May for you when you sucked? No, they did not. Are they turning here in April? Do you still stink against lefties? Can you still not hit a wet paper bag against a Southpaw? No, you cannot. This is not a numbers thing. This is a personnel thing. This is a roster thing. You don't have a bat in your lineup right now that can be productive, that can have a good AB, put one together against a lefty pitcher. Against Cal Freeland last night, their best hits were a bloop and an infield single, a little bleeder in the infield. That's the best you could do. And the only reason they got base runners is because Cal Freeland, he was had issues with command and control. He was walking guys. That's the only time the Dodgers threatened against him. It's got nothing to do with numbers, Dave Roberts. You need a bat at the trade deadline that can hit a lefty pitcher. You could have done it last year. You didn't. And it's going to cost you a playoff series and a World Series come in the fall. Look at Joe Madden, what he did with the Cubs. He made sure he put Lester and Brett Anderson, two lefties, starters against the Dodgers in that series at Wrigley, and it worked out well for him. Brett Anderson shut down the Dodgers. The same Brett Anderson who got crushed by Milwaukee last night. Dodgers have issues with lefties. They got to fix it. They're not winning nothing until they fix this problem.
It's hard to believe, though, because 4 teams in the NL are actually worse than them against left-handed pitching. I find that hard to believe. But, yeah, I don't – again, if you're laying that kind of number, I mean, I don't know how long – it's like these people that are still betting on the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, how many times do they have to screw up a point spread for you to say, you know what? They're just not going to cover. It just is what it is. I mean, you're still finding people out there that are betting on this group. I mean, I don't get it. Again, I'll make this reference. I don't care if Nolan Ryan's pitching. If he can't hit, you're not going to score. You're not going to win a game. You're not going to. The pitcher can't score runs throwing the ball. He can make sure there's no runs that are scored, but you got to score a couple runs.
And the Cavs are still laying 9 and 10 in the NBA case with a team that Tyronn Lue said late in the regular season about his team's defense and how bad it was. I'm not confident we can fix the defense. That's the quote of the season from any coach. I'm not confident that we can fix the defense. Boy, that's a ringing endorsement for my team being able to get stops. Coach, way to go.
Yeah,
great segue there, Ian. I mean,
and by the way, Drew, quickly, the teams that are worse against left-handed pitching than the Dodgers, Cardinals, D-backs, Padres, and Pirates, all with a lower batting average team-wise than the Dodgers against lefties. But still, Dodgers pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, in hindsight, just to piggyback off of that, the handedness of the pitcher is very important. It's something to note before you place your bet. Absolutely.
That killed me, that Dave Roberts quote. It's a numbers thing. The numbers will turn for us. You've been waiting 13 months for the numbers to turn. This has been a problem since the start of April last season when you were dead last in OPS, batting average, one of the lowest in runs per 9 innings against lefties, and things haven't changed. But no, it's the numbers. The numbers will turn. Please, give me a break.
Yeah, and people are saying fire the hitting coach, all kinds of things. I mean, just in the chat box alone. So I think a lot of people are on the same page. What's going on? These numbers, it's just not making any sense. But Ian, and guys, we'll come back to the MLB. If it's in the best bets, feel free to take time in the outro. But we do got to touch on some NHL. Let's hit the ice. Ian, you got anything for tonight, tomorrow for the listeners? What to bet, what to look out for?
What to look out for, hopefully, is more great hockey. This has been an unbelievable first round. Monday night was the ultimate in terms of entertainment. 4 games all going to overtime. The Toronto game, Chicago game, Calgary game, Ottawa game that night. And I believe those are the 4 series that are going on tonight. Actually, St. Louis, Minnesota is the one difference. Chicago, they don't play again till tomorrow night. So you got Anaheim, Calgary, Minnesota, St. Louis, Ottawa, Boston, Washington, Toronto. How about Toronto up 2-1 in their series against the Washington Capitals? Alex Ovechkin and the Capitals, are they going to do it to us again with this early flame out in the postseason after being one of the best teams in the NHL? I mean, absolutely unbelievable that this team, again, is under the gun in the very first round, again, after winning the President's Trophy. This is an Alex Ovechkin-led Capitals team. They haven't gotten out of the second round throughout their entire tenure over the last 10 years, and here they are already maybe about to get knocked out as the number 1 seed overall in the NHL. All the pressure on Washington tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing how that one goes. I would lean to Toronto again at the plus price. I'm going to stay away because of the spot. If Washington's going to show you anything, it's going to be tonight, trying to avoid falling down 3-1 in the series. I think Ottawa's probably worth a bet of some kind against Boston. I think that series has been mispriced from the get-go. There's up to 4 starting defensemen on the Bruins that could be out tonight. Torrey Krug, Adam McQuaid, Colin Miller, Brandon Carlo. All of them might be out. They're a total mash unit on the back end for the Boston Bruins. Ottawa's taken the play to them. I think Ottawa's had the better of the play territorially and been the better team in extended stretches in the first 3 games of this series. And even though it's that must-win spot, so to speak, for Boston, they're trying to avoid a 3-1 series. Must-win doesn't mean will win. So I think the plus price might be worth looking at there.
Let me just comment on that and get your opinion. Look screen right now at BetDSI is the best number if you're going to follow what Ian's saying and bet Ottawa, plus 148. So why would they be almost $1.50 favorite if they've played the better hockey so far?
Well, Boston for most of the season has been playing. They played really well down the stretch. I think that had something to do with influencing the power rating toward the Bruins, inflating it, in my opinion. But they're besieged by injuries. I am stunned we haven't seen at least a little downward adjustment in Boston. This is basically the same price that they were laying in Game 3 a game that Ottawa won in overtime, that cashed a big underdog ticket in that game. Now they're laying that same price. They're still as banged up and beleaguered on the blue line. What is it? Just because it's a must-win spot, they're off that loss. They got bag skated by their head coach and put through a big, huge intense practice yesterday. That's why now they deserve to be laying minus 160 again? Not in my mind. I think Ottawa's once again live in this game. They're the healthier team. I think they're the team that's played better throughout this series. And I think at that price, you got to look in some direction. Doesn't have to be a big bet if you're not comfortable, but some value at least on the Ottawa side there. St. Louis should finish Minnesota. Minnesota does have pride. They probably will play hard, but they've had a real tough time. I do expect them to really fire the puck at the net many times at Jake Allen because they know they're going to have to get traffic bodies to the net, crash the net. That's the only way they're going to beat this guy because he's been outstanding in this series, but still would think the Blues might be able to close that one out tonight in 4 straight on home ice, send Bruce Boudreau packing again early. And then the last game, Anaheim-Calgary, Drew, I'm going to save that for the end of this show because that's where my best bet's going to come from tonight. NHL, Anaheim-Calgary. So we'll talk about that at the end. But that's your NHL look for tonight.
Yeah, great stuff, Ian. I like that breakdown, man. And we'll come back to that best bets on the outro here just coming up. But Donnie and Big Man, do we got anything in the NBA playoffs? Things for the watchers to look out for?
Yeah, obviously, a couple good games tonight with, we got Golden State and got Houston, OKC. Portland played well in the first game. I mean, they were, a team that, I think a lot of people, I know they, they didn't, they lost by 12, but covered the number, played pretty well throughout the game. And you're going to continue to see Golden State, much like Cleveland, continue to be a little overvalued. I mean, the numbers they're putting out in the playoffs are a little ridiculous. I know Golden State's a very good team, and they have the ability to win on any given night by 20. But with McCollum and with Damian Lillard, I mean, this is a pretty decent team, Portland. I don't think they're worthy of being 15-point underdogs. Kevin Durant may not play tonight. That line's dropped to 13.5. I think anything above 12, I think Portland's still worth a look. And dogs have been coming in like crazy in these playoffs. I just think this line particularly is continue to be a little too many. Houston, OKC. Look, OKC they have one player. That's it. That is what it is. Westbrook's a great player, but he can't do everything. And you saw in the first game, they were really no match. It'll be closer, but I don't think OKC's got much of a chance. Washington and Atlanta. Washington looking like a really good basketball team. I think they have a chance maybe to be that team that Boston, I think many people thought would be. This Washington team, good basketball team, got a lot of really kind of guys that you wouldn't really talk too much about, like a Marcus Morris or those Morris twins. But guys like that you need on your team. They got a star in John Wall, Bradley Beal, and Gortat. I like this Wizards team. Look, I think they go up 2-0 tonight. Atlanta just doesn't have that knockout punch. Washington playing good basketball. So for me, I'm enjoying the playoffs as far as from a betting perspective. I've kind of ridden some dogs. I had the Jazz in the first game, and they're going to have some struggles. But playoffs are pretty good so far. Been pretty fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Donnie, you've been betting the playoffs at all?
Have not been betting the playoffs, but just looking at the recent trends, I mean, anything over 5 points, it seems like you're getting, quite good value in the NBA. A lot of these teams we like to talk about in college football season when you're heading into a playoff or the NFL, there's no style points in the NBA playoffs. You're just looking to get a win and keep it moving on and stay healthy. Whereas you've seen it numerous times, a lot of these numbers are coming down to the end. One team is just sitting on the ball. They don't care if they cover a spread. They don't care if they win by double digits. They just want to get the lead and get out of here. Case in point again with the Warriors, same thing in the last game. That was like 15, 16, 17 points within that last 2 minutes. Portland was able to get inside that number, and you're catching a really nice number again at 13.5. If you take a look at Kevin Durant, who's banged up and probably won't play in this one, it's almost like Golden State's going to have that same thing. Let's just stay healthy here because the eyes on the prize are playing the Cavs in the finals, not blowing out Portland game 2 there.
And Drew, by the way, one other thing with the Utah Jazz quickly, they did their job. They won game 1, even without Rudy Gobert, which, I think puts them in a really good position. They played well last night, did cover the number, were right in that game, and I think that's due to the fact Quinn Snyder's done a hell of a job with this Utah Jazz team. They've been able to overcome a lot of injuries, and you look at playing small, it's kind of worked for them against the Clippers. They got the job done. They played well in game 2. Now let's go home to game 3 and 4. I have the Jazz on an underdog ticket to win this series. I think going home, that's going to be just the medicine to maybe, really take the upper hand in this series. The Los Angeles Clippers have to blow it up. This just doesn't work. And they may win this series and do things, but they're not good enough to win anything. And that's been the problem for this team year after year. Jazz playing well. They did their job. Now they head home for a couple in Utah.
I'm with Big Man on the Utah series price. I actually bet that as well before the series started. It was a great bet with a better defensive team. Yeah, and Blake Griffin is a guy that really frustrates me. Rudy Gobert's not on the court last night. Why don't you take the ball to the basket? Why are you still doing your jump shot? I know that big three in the corner worked for him at the end there, but you got an advantage there. Gobert, your rim protector, one of the dominant rim protectors in the NBA, not on the court, and you're still settling for the Jimmy. It's unacceptable. He's lucky that three ball went in. Could you imagine if that three ball doesn't go in, that put it away, and Utah comes back and wins that game? They're all over Griffin for that shot selection. But as a result, they win the game. It doesn't matter in the end. But Blake Griffin, to me, is not that clutch fourth quarter performer that people seem to think he is or thought he could have been. I mean, Houston, Oklahoma City, I think Houston's winning that series. I mean, everybody loves Oklahoma City plus the points tonight. I guess spot-wise, it's a good spot, bounce-back-wise for Oklahoma City. But I'll tell you two things. One, Westbrook's got to play a hell of a lot better. And two, they got to learn how to defend the pick and roll. That was an embarrassment in game one. The pick and roll defense was non-existent for Oklahoma City. It's like they'd never seen it before.
Yeah,
it was the same old shit that Houston was throwing at them, and they couldn't stop it. It's like round and around we go. Where it stops, nobody knows. We can't stop it.
They couldn't score either. I mean, you look at it in the second half, they scored 33 points. I mean, come on. 33 points in a playoff game. In 2 quarters, you scored 33 points. Disgusting. Not good enough. Russell Westbrook, look, he could score 50, and they will not win. That's how many. I mean, they don't have anyone else. It is what it is. They got murdered in that game. I mean, they lost by 31 points. I mean, they weren't even in the game. It's not going to get fixed anytime soon. And the pick and roll defense is a problem. It's not going to get fixed in 2 days.
Exactly. Russell Westbrook may shoot better tonight, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he will play better. Play better means get your teammates involved. Make them a little bit better. I'm not convinced he does that often enough at all.
Absolutely. Great breakdown, guys, on the hardwood. And we're getting to the point where I know a lot of the viewers want to see it's our best bets. And just want to throw this out there. We got just less than 100 viewers live. We get a bunch of people viewing this roundtable after. And we just want to thank you for watching. Hopefully we're giving you good advice. Feel free to chime in. Let us know what you want to see more of, any bets you're wanting us to talk about. We love hearing from you. And feel free to interact with all of us on Twitter. I know Jeff, Donnie are great follows. Ian as well, especially in the NHL playoffs. And we got CFL coming up as well. And just one thing with SBR, I was talking to Zach, who runs things over here, and betting with confidence. Make sure you're finding sports books that are going to pay you out and pay you out promptly. SBR ranks them A and B is what we suggest you're betting with. There's Pinnacle up there. There's Bookmaker, 5 Dimes. You're going to get paid. Heritage as well. So make sure you check that out. Those are good books, and you can sign up right there. It's really easy with good bonuses. So, guys, after saying that, let's go around. And Jeff, I know you wanted to hit on some soccer as well. I'm not sure if that's going to be your best bet, but this is Big Man on Campus. Find him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Big Man, what do you got?
Yeah, I have no problem giving this my best bet. I think it's the best bet on the entire card, no matter where you look. And I just want to preface this. I give soccer out for free. I enjoy the game. Since I was a kid. I'm up over 17 units in less than a month on soccer, and I'm giving out a lot of the time pretty big underdogs. These bets are fun. Soccer's a fun game, and for me today, the only bet I'm going to make in football, Champions League, 2:45 Eastern, over 3.5 goals in Borussia Dortmund, Monaco. This aggregate has Monaco up. Dortmund is going to have to go for it. Monaco is not a side that is a strong defensive team. Both these teams relentless. They're both going to have a ton of attack shots. They're going to both have the ball. Possession-wise, there's not going to be a lot of defense. The goalkeepers are poor. This should be a really high-scoring game, just like the first one. We saw 5 goals in that matchup. We should see if not more in this one. Last thing I'll say, though, Monaco also a side who Monaco's an island. There's not a lot of inhabitants really. It's kind of a vacation spot. The stadium is not going to be full today. It's going to be pretty tranquil. I think we'll see a really good game, a lot of offense. And Borussia Dortmund, don't be surprised to see them come in and advance in this series. I think they're the better team, but we're going to see plenty of opportunities. I think we see like a 4-2, 3-2 type of game. I'm going to go over 3.5 at a pretty nice price. You can get around 120 anywhere you look. So that's going to be my best bet. You can find me on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Follow me. Find me on the right side of campus, the Late Night on Campus. All of our soccer shows. I'm in mainstay at SPR, and we'll continue to be.
Yeah, good stuff, Jeff. And you got to make sure to watch Donnie and Jeff on their show. It's a great show, late night at campus. What is that, at 10:30?
How can you not like a show where we talk about Carmelo Anthony and Lala, and we talk about sport. We have a lot of fun, a lot of good
and
guests.
Sopranos, yeah.
Yeah, we talk Sopranos. we had Natalie Rodstrom on last week. We interviewed her. We're gonna have some cool things coming up. So yeah, chime in. It makes it fun at night, late night.
Yeah, good stuff, man. And yeah, we'll head around. Ian Cameron, you can find him on Twitter at Babano. Also his work at Sports Memo as well. He's a contributor all the time on SBR. Great NHL and CFL, like I said, right around the corner. This guy is the best at that sport I've ever seen. So, Ian, best bet for tonight?
Well, let me just go back to Jeff's soccer play, because I get emails daily from two really well-respected, very good soccer handicappers, soccer bettors. They're both on that over as well. I mean, I haven't seen or talked to anyone that doesn't like that Dortmund-Monaco game to go over that total. So I'm on it too, big time. Yeah, best bet in the NHL. Lost my train of thought there. Anaheim, Calgary. This has been a penalty parade. Neither team has shown any sort of discipline whatsoever in this series. Power plays have been the routine. I think both teams have been on the power play, it seems like, multiple times in every period in this series. 3-0 in the series for Anaheim. Playoff elimination games in the NHL last year trended more to the over than they trended to the under. We already saw the first playoff elimination game in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year go over the total. That was Pittsburgh-Columbus last night, an easy over the total game, 5-3 win for the Columbus Blue Jackets. We've already seen this total already steam up a bit. It was what, 5 minus 140 is where it opened. It's minus 150. Now there's 5.5s even starting to appear in a lot of books. I would prefer the 5.5 at the plus price rather than minus 150 and lay the flat 5. I would go 5.5 at a plus price. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to go over 5.5 plus 125. I see that right now at bookmaker/Chris. Let's go over the total, 5.5 plus 125. Anaheim Ducks, Calgary Flames. We had 2 pushes in the first 2 games of the series. Game 3 in Calgary flew over the total. And I think Game 4 tonight, with the Flames looking to avoid a sweep, will do the same. Let's go over Ducks and Flames.
Boom. I like it, Ian. Good stuff, man. And you're right. I didn't give Jeff the proper name to do on his soccer. I think, Jeff, you hit like a plus 300 last time, right?
Yeah, I've hit a plus 535, plus 300. I've hit a couple real big ones lately.
Good stuff, man. I mean, these guys know what they're talking about, whether it be soccer, NHL, MLB. But hey, last but not least, Donnie Rightside, man, the mainstay here. If you're not following him on Twitter, I highly suggest it. Good follow, funny, good insight as well. I almost jinxed him. And Jeff, you called me out on it. Good stuff on that on Cincinnati last night. But you were a winner around the board, it sounded like.
No, it was just it was funny because I saw people were talking about Bronson Arroyo, and I was thinking, it's only 2-0. I mean, we know it's
the first inning.
We know it's Bronson Arroyo here. I mean, we're not. This isn't Max Scherzer here.
Dude, right when you said that, I was like, shit, he's right, man. But good stuff. Donnie had got the plus side on both. You can find him at Rightside VP on Twitter. Donnie, what do you got for us tonight?
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. I know the time on the show is coming to a close. We're going to take, again, all throughout April. If you follow me on Twitter, I'm doing everything for free in April. I don't have decisive advantages. I just look for some key markers in April. Once May hits, that's when all the numbers come in to check, and we can start firing away May, June, July, and August. We're going to go again with the early public flamethrower, and we're going to take Oakland today. We're going to, looks like about there, maybe minus 113, minus 114. If you followed the show earlier, I gave the breakdown of why I like it. Again, it has nothing to do against matchups. Doesn't have to be lefty versus righty, good pitcher versus bad pitcher. We're just going to turn the public on itself, which has been so profitable if you followed me through April. Also, later on tonight, another one of these games that we're going to look at. Zach Greinke and Julius Chaseen, 82% of the public now coming in on Arizona, only 18% on San Diego. Line opened up at -125. What's the line out there public right now? Still at -125. That's going to be on the radar as well. Also taking a look, I know Drew always talks about shopping for the best book possible. SBR does a great job with that. But also yesterday, case in point, I don't bet the NBA. If you're looking at the Clippers-Utah game, some books had soft openings at 6.5, at 7. The line closed at 9. The game ended up at 8. So always do your due diligence. Sometimes the early bird does get the worm. And one last bit of advice: the stubborn go broke in this business. Something that you used, the system that you used last year, 2 years ago, might not work now. Always be a sponge in this industry. There's a lot of great cappers here on SBR. Same thing with this forum here. Just take a little bit of that knowledge each and every way. And again, the stubborn will go broke. If you keep on betting on a certain team and they don't win, you'll keep on going broke. Change it up every once in a while. It's worth the risk.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Donnie. And to add to that, if you're handicapping the same way you were in 2010, 2011,
Yes, exactly.
You're doing it wrong. You have to be able to conform to what the modern markets are.
Yep.
But hey, great show, guys. We got to head out, like Donnie was saying, keep it under an hour is what we're looking to do. My best bet is San Francisco Giants, Kansas City Royals under first 5. The Royals have really struggled against lefties, going against Bumgarner. Also Vargas on the hill for Kansas City. He's actually been under the radar so far this year. I'm looking to back him. I just don't trust the Kansas City bullpen. So I'm going under first 5, 4.5. -130 across the board. So I will use bookmaker there. Under first 5, 4.5, -130. Make sure to check out SBR odds for the best odds available. Make sure you have more than one book. I can't suggest more to have to be able to shop lines. If you want to take this more seriously, 3, 4, or 5 is something that I do. I know a lot of these guys do as well. And make sure to check out SBR ratings page to make sure you are getting a book that will pay you and pay you promptly. For SBR Roundtable, Jeff, Donnie, and Ian, I'm Drew Martin. We will see you next week, 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 Pacific. Jeff, what do you got?
Really quick, before we go quickly, I mentioned it on my show last night. Make sure when you're betting soccer, I know a lot of people are maybe fairly new with it, make sure you know in the competitions what is a win or a loss. A lot of people don't maybe understand that when you have a 90-minute bet, at the end of 90 minutes, no matter if it goes into extra time or not, most bets are for 90 minutes on a side. So make sure you readily understand that. A lot of people hit me up asking me, hey, did I win and whatever. Aggregates don't mean anything. It's win-loss in the 90 minutes, not in the extra time. You need to hit to advance to win those bets. So just make sure you educate yourself on how to bet soccer, because it is a little bit different than some of the other sports.
Absolutely. Good stuff, Jeff. And yeah, educate yourself in soccer and also in all the sports. Make sure you know the rules before you place the bet. But all right, boys. Hey, great show. See you next week. SBR Roundtable, 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern.
Adios. Good luck.